PIO in terms of product details. The base kit's going to be in the $59.85 category, so it's a lower price product. Base kit has 8 workouts and a bonus workout on 3 DVDs. And the team is like, you know, look, I could get into all these details here. Actually, since we have between now and Summit, the email collectors will go, or I guess they're already live, but I think you might have noticed that the email collector on the Team Beachbody site will now accept the information so that you'll be connected to the people whose emails you direct to the site. Yeah, so thank these guys. They make all that stuff work. So, let's see, no equipment, and we will make this thing available the first day of Summit. So, yeah, so, you know, and everybody's thinking, like, well, how do we get ready? We don't want to have another 21-day fix. What can we do? And so, you know, we'll have units there. We'll start shipping them, I believe, the Monday after Summit. So we're really gearing up for that. And in fact, I will tell you something interesting. I was prepared to talk about another program that we were considering releasing at Summit, and we decided to move that. When we saw all of the enthusiasm around this program, we were like, oh, this is going to be big. And we didn't want to complicate the next 2 or 3 months around this, and in particular, the launch of PIO, which will be big in end of June and then July. We want the focus to be here because we think we can really help a lot of people with this. But that also means we got one in our back pocket. All right, so make sure you add your Coach ID at the end of the URL when you're sharing the link for the email collector so that you get credit. Did you hear me on that one? Make sure you put your Coach ID there. Okay. All right, I'm not gonna, they even gave me a thing here so that I could read. Example, www. I'm not gonna read this. Referring rep ID equals. Okay. Quick, write this down. Referring rep ID equals your Coach ID. Okay, and I have, okay. This one is exciting to me. As the network grows, and we expand and learn, we learn how we can better serve particular parts of the community. And the Hispanic community has been like, please give us the tools, they said in Spanish, please give us the tools we need to grow. John went to Puerto Rico over, I think, the last Super Saturday, and met with Irene, met with the team, and said, and came back and said, guys, I want to support this community and make sure they know that we are serious about growing this part of the business. Very serious. And with the hottest launch that we have had in the history of the network, 21-Day Fix, we have made the commitment now to translate that into Spanish and have that available right after Summit. So it's the same videos, basically, but right after Summit, this should be prepared and ready for shipping. The whole program will be translated into Spanish, and specifically, the eating plan, the Fix Starts Here program, and the 3-day quick fix will be all in Spanish. So you'll have that option and a specific website. And the video, you'll have the option to watch it with the, I guess they're dubbed. It's overdubbing, right? It's not, you don't have to read the workout. Yeah. So, I don't know how you say windmill in Spanish, but we're going to do a lot of it. And see how serious we are? We even did the slide in Spanish. We are not kidding around. So that will be available just after Summit, and I just want to repeat to everybody here, and I know we have a lot of coaches that came from Puerto Rico and who are building their business in Espanol, and we really appreciate the hard work you're doing. Sometimes our business in particular can be challenging in that community, and we think it's just because we really haven't been able to serve up the very unique what's unique about Beachbody is the fact that what they call intellectual property or workout videos aren't that easy. It's very expensive to translate all this stuff, so it kind of makes it difficult for the Spanish community to go, they really care about us. Look, here's all these English videos. And so we hope this is just the first in what will be a succession of programs translated into Spanish completely, but we're going to need to see some success with this one. So we wanted to give our Hispanic coaches a tool that looks like it's really going to be a home run for us, and support them as much as we can. We really hope that coming in July that we really run with this program. So it's going to be something. That's right. I said that right. Not a bad word. Okay. Also has something exciting, a little bit of news, and Michael, why don't you come up? I need your help on this one. But if you recall, last year we did the Beast Classic, right? And it was really fun, and we had all the sort of pyrotechnics and people flexing and everything. But it lacked one thing, and it lacked acknowledgement of the very attractive results that people can get with all our programs. So this year we've expanded the concept to basically be the Beachbody Classic.
That's right, the Beachbody Classic.
And that will be the same night as Beachbody's Got Talent, hosted by Mindy Lawhorn and Jimmy Hayes Nelson.
Next slide, please.
So Michael, why don't you describe what we can expect from the Beachbody Classic a little bit?
Well, I'll be wearing that, and Carl will be wearing no, it should be a fun night. For those of you, as Carl said, that have been to our summit in the past. Last year we did the Beast Classic, and it really blew us away. Just it was a great night. All of the coaches have participated, tons of fun. The other thing that's become a bit of a tradition on Friday nights, which is the one semi-free night, but after the Star Diamond reception, we've been having our Beachbody's Got Talent show, and for those of you that have ever been to that, unbelievable the amount of talent out there amongst you coaches. So we decided to just combine them one great night. It'll be Friday night. We'll kick things off with the talent show with Beachbody's Got Talent, and then right into Beachbody Classic. If you want to participate, and this is probably why I'm up here. I didn't need to say everything you just said, but I fucking felt it. You can see in this blurry line here, if you want to participate in the Beachbody Classic, go to beachbodyclassic.com, and there'll be a form there that you can submit. The one thing I will tell you is that if you participate in the Beachbody Classic, there is some preliminary event activity that I believe will happen on Thursday, and then where they'll do some pre-judging so that the show will go fairly quickly. So you want to make sure that you're prepared for that. And then for the talent show, they're going to put out an announcement, I believe, today on that for where you would contact us, but I believe that it's TDBCoach411 at beachbody.com if you're interested in the talent show. And so that's it. Should be a fantastically fun night.
That's awesome. I'm told that my 80-something-year-old father will do an interpretive dance at the talent show.
Thanks to Tai Chi?
Yes, I'm just kidding. But he has this Grecian urn. It's really fantastic. So I think that's going to be a fun night, and the Beachbody Challenge that happens the next night, where we pick the winners of the $100,000 prize. That's been a great tradition ever since we started the contest or started the network, the $1 Million Body Game we used to call it. But we look for inspirational stories, big weight loss stories, people who overcame incredible obstacles to get there. But there is this other aspect of what we do, and we didn't want to pretend that it wasn't there, and that is the fact that some people just get downright ripped and awesome looking. And so we want to celebrate that too, and so Friday's sort of the fun little crazy night, Vegas style, so that's going to be cool. Okay, so let me check, make sure, do I still have time left? You guys okay? Getting a little antsy or anything? You're good? Okay, so let's talk about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, or particularly how my story relates to you, and I'm guessing that my story is nothing like you would have expected. unless you have been an entrepreneur and you really know what it's like. There's a concept, if you've read, we're supposed to do personal development constantly, and I read strictly nonfiction. Like that's really all I can, just about all my life, I've really just enjoyed nonfiction. I think I read Hardy Boys when I was a kid. It was a phase. But then I really got into nonfiction. Like I started reading Tony Robbins and Napoleon Hill very young. And one of the books that I've read is called The Black Swan, which has a concept in it which talks about the narrative fallacy. Okay, don't have to write that down. It's not that big of a deal. But the point is that when you look back on somebody's success, or a story, or a situation, or a war, or any big event or big outcome, and you look back and look at the timeline, you have a tendency to want to create cause and effect on each step of that timeline. And it's called the narrative fallacy because it's not always that way. There are so many infinite factors, luck, training, relationships that contribute to this timeline to get to where you're chartering your own cruise ship, that that you just can't look at it and act like A to B to C to D and so on. So it's from my perspective, one of the things that like, in fact, Tony has a new book out. What's the name of that book? Is it Bring? No, it's The 11 Laws? The 11 Laws. What is it? Big Picture. Big Picture, right. So they, Tony and I were talking, and he wanted me to do a bit in there about having a plan. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the last guy in the world. Once I have a plan, that's when I know exactly what I don't want to do. I just get bored with a really organized plan. But what I do know is what the end goal is, okay? So when I talk about me being an entrepreneur, and what entrepreneur means, besides being a big word that's hard to spell, entrepreneur means a person who takes greater risks than normal to build a business to have greater reward than just having a job. I looked it up and I kind of memorized it. So you all, in certain respects, are entrepreneurs. The good news is, as a coach, you don't have to take these huge risks. You can take huge risks, leave your full-time job, or spend more time working on the business than you would otherwise do. You might watch TV or whatever, so you take more risks with your time to create something and be more aggressive about it than the rest of the population. There's an important aspect of that which really relates to me. Because I've got brothers and sisters who went on very different tracks than I did. Not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur, which means you might sign coaches who sound excited, they love the idea of creating financial freedom and helping people, but at the end of the day, they're just not cut out for it. And that's okay. Some people can be entrepreneurs and some people work for entrepreneurs, and that's okay. You're in this room because you have some of that entrepreneurial DNA. For me, I recognized it fairly young. I can't say, when I was 9 years old, I was like, I think I'm an entrepreneur. But there was something, and again, this is the narrative fallacy. I sort of look back and I go, oh, I guess I was an entrepreneur. But just to give you an example, and I apologize for stuff that I repeat. I give these speeches, and I'm sorry if I've repeated this to you, but when I was 9 years old, we had my elementary school was right next to our house, so I could walk. It was about 200, 300 yards to the school, and there weren't many families that could walk. It was like a farm community, so big spaces between people. But we got to walk to school. So everybody, you had your book bag and everything, and they were excited about, at the beginning of the year, like you get your new book bag, and I wanted a briefcase. So I had this briefcase that was like, I think it was my dad's old briefcase. You could open this thing and a little combination, open that baby up, and I had like compartments with Band-Aids and pencils, a little spot for my Hot Wheels just in case I needed them. I had tablets, and I would go walking across this field with my briefcase, and I thought I was the coolest guy in school. And, you know, and I'm sure that everybody else thought I was the biggest fool in school. But I just, something, I mean, and it was, I just loved it. Like, when my mom was an interior designer, and she was like, you can do your room any way you want. I had sort of this tiny room, and I said, I want the biggest desk we can fit in that room. So I had this big legal desk with one of those banker's lights, fluorescent, and a button, and I would play with that button, and I would empty my piggy bank, and I would line up all the quarters, pennies, and nickels so all the heads pointed the same direction. Something, I was a freak! But there was something, I wanted to be productive is the point. I wanted to get into the business, and in fact, I was very lucky. I got chosen, and I guess I was known. I would work hard. I had a very hard work ethic. I'm the kind of guy that I just don't like to be sitting still. I'm not just a go out and play kind of guy. I need to be creating something and building something. And my family used to own this musical theater outside of Philadelphia called the Bucks County Playhouse. And at one time, and I had the opportunity. I was in Sound of Music when I was 12 years old. I was Friedrich. And I'm not going to hit the note now that I had to hit as a 12-year-old, but it was embarrassing. And for the cliques in the audience, I think I hit the right note just now. If anybody recorded that, I would like you to check and see if I was actually on key. So, anyway, that was, I was Friedrich, and I was in the play, and man, I was bored out of my mind. You had to change clothes every 5 minutes for a new scene. Hello, goodbye, I'll be the thing, whatever. And, fun stuff would happen backstage. We'd do the same lines every night, and I was just like, oh man, this isn't for me. And then, soon after that, my dad said, hey, we had somebody who was going to run the concession stand out there, that sells the candy and intermission and everything, and she's really not getting it together, not moving at the pace that we want. Would you like to run the concession stand? I was like, what? You mean handle the money in the concession stand, Dad? I'm your man. I was 13 years old, and it was such a blast. I mean, you can imagine, you're standing there and nothing's happening. I got the refrigerators with the ice cream behind me and the chips and the stuff and the sodas, and I learned how to make coffee, and you would just wait for the hour until the doors open. Here they come. And then it was just a race, and it was like, shoot, how fast? And there would be a count every night. How much candy did we sell? How much stuff? I would try to upsell people. Well, if you're going to get pretzels, you got to get a soda, and if you're going to share your pretzels, you got to get 2 sodas. Who needs 2 sodas? I mean, it was just bad. And I was just moving, and I would count all the money, and my dad would have to wait long, so I had to make all the heads point the same direction. You had to put the coins in the little wrappers, and it was awesome. I loved it. And I was like, this is something for me. And then it got to the point where my dad would take me to where we go, and like the wholesaler where we would go buy the candy. I'm like, okay, well, let's check. The Kit Kats aren't really moving right now. People seem to be going snow caps this year. So I was getting into business, but I wasn't, and I had a financial incentive. They gave me a reward for how it grew, but I just loved that feeling of productivity. And I was doing so well that by the time I could drive at 16, they said, Carl, why don't you handle the parking lot? And they called me Friendly Joe Parker. And it was awesome because the parking lot was so small. Like, it was a 400-seat theater or whatever, so you'd have all these cars coming in at the same time in this tiny little parking lot, and it was such a fire hazard, jammed all the cars in, and everybody had to leave their keys in. Like, car after car would come in, and I would go, it was like $2 to park, like, keys above the visor, don't lock all the doors. Keys above the visor, don't lock all the doors. Keys above the visor. And literally, there would be an entire parking lot of people with their keys, and then the guy in the middle would be like, oh, my babysitter calls, he's got to leave. And I was like, oh, man, okay. But, at the end of the day, man, I'd have this stack of cash, and I'm counting it and making it up, and I was just like, oh, this is awesome. I love this. And people were like, they think that you can put, Friendly Joe Parker became a thing at the Playhouse. That, you know, I don't know if you walk into a theater and they have the pictures of all the people who are in the show, and down the corner they had Friendly Joe Parker. My picture, I had my own headshot. It was awesome. So that basically, I was working this business every summer. I mean, I basically had a full-time job from the time I started that concession stand until now. I mean, I've just worked, and I've loved working. I saw, part-time jobs. When the theater was down, I used to ride my bike to wash dishes at a restaurant. My parents didn't say, hey, you need to go get a job. I wanted that job. I remember asking my dad, what's the deal with the stock market thing that I hear about? Can I buy some stocks? And I'd do that. He took me to a place, Merrill Lynch downtown, and I bought 100 shares of Spectrophysics. My uncle used to collect coins, and he would take me, I'd be like, what's that about? You mean, because I lined up all my coins, and they point in the same direction. And these are like one of the little plastic cases. I'm like, that's cool. So we went, and I invested $250 in coins, and then the price of silver went up, and I was like, I think the price of silver went up, let's dump them. And I made $800 in like 2 months on that. And my uncle was like, I should have asked you for a cut. So my point is, I never rested. Now, I didn't know where this was all leading, but I knew that I wanted to I liked the idea of creating wealth for myself, and I just constantly worked. It was constant. My brother and sister were very different. They took different paths. My sister became bilingual in Spanish. My brother was very involved in the lighting and the technology side of the theater. But for me, I wanted to feel the productivity and the creation and exchange of value. And then there was one point that my dad said, hey, Carl, it'd be a really good experience for you to go to this thing called Up With People. My brother, my sister and my brother had done it, where you travel around the world and you sing songs and you live with different families, which just sounds excruciating to me. But it was right before you go to college, you sort of do this 1-year traveling thing. And I said, Dad, I really don't want to do it. I want to get right to college, and I want to get right to work. And there are a few things that my dad and I really tangled about, and that was one. Like, he was like, no, I really want you to do this. And I was like, I really don't want to do it. He's like, I really want you to do it. And I refused. I didn't want to do it. I went right to school, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in some form of media, because I'd worked in the theater. I had done some TV in school, and all the time, here's how this relates to you at this stage of the game. When you become a new coach, we talk about the vital behaviors. People are searching for systems. Give me the foolproof system. All of the things that you're going to do as an entrepreneur, there is never going to be a foolproof system except for one thing, and that is work. That's it. That's the foolproof system. You got to do the vital behaviors. Like, that's a clue about being the proof the product works in this business. Doing your personal development. Invite. That is the work. The inviting is where that virtuous circle comes from. So for me, when I got out of school, I took jobs. In fact, I never really envisioned, even though I would read about entrepreneurs and titans of business, I never really visualized that I would be a CEO of a business. And I mentioned in a story that I told at the Southern California event a couple weeks ago, that there was a guy who told me, a guy who was a big deal in the infomercial business, and he was my boss, a real senior executive in the business, and he took me aside and he said, Carl, you're really good at this, but I want you to know you will never run a company. It's not in your future. He said, you're going to be a great programming manager, you're a creative guy, but I want you to know where your strengths are. That's one of the ways to be successful, is to be very focused on really where you fit in the machine. And I just want to be honest with you, you are not the guy at the top of the machine. And I was like, okay, all right, we'll see. So, but my point is, job after job, I was thinking, one of the things I was thinking about with the never give up theme is, what have I quit? Except for 2 prior marriages. Never give up, except for marriages not working. That was a footnote. And I thought, I really couldn't think of one thing that I wish I hadn't quit through growing up in my professional life, because every decision that I made was really based on that end goal. So like I said about Tony's book, you know, I'm not a planner, but I am extremely focused on the goal and the goals in between the goal, right? The goals, the milestones that lead up to that goal. And that's what I talk about in Tony's book, that as you are working, you know, your goal might be financial freedom or pay off debt or to be able to give millions of dollars a year, literally, to the charities that you really believe in. Whatever that end is, okay, so what are the goals that I need to hit here? Doesn't mean that you have to have a step-by-step plan to get there. But once you have those intermediary goals, I had an intermediary goal that I wanted to get to a certain level of wealth, but I wanted to do it in a certain way. As I was working with guys in this infomercial business, and you know, you've all seen these infomercials, it always sort of shocked me at how these guys would scorch the earth behind them with just terrible offers or how they treated the customer or products that didn't work. And I'm like, this medium is so powerful. Why do it in a way that the customer feels screwed and then you got to recreate the company or whatever? I was like, why does it have to be that way? What if we could create a company that would actually grow through this direct marketing and then direct selling methodology, but actually could treat the customer well. So that became the end game, that I wanted to have a business that didn't just profit, or I wanted to work in a business that didn't just profit and create wealth for me, but it would actually also enhance people's lives. That became a mission. That became a rule to my success. So as an entrepreneur, and again, I didn't know back when I was 8, but as an entrepreneur, what I knew is I wanted to have a specific lifestyle of creativity, a platform from which I could launch any idea that I had that fit with a particular business direction, and I could just grow it and attack it and do it in a way that would help the people that I'm serving. Now, every step along the way, every job that I had has informed what I do today at some level, whether it was mentors that I met, meaning that people you're working with now, uplines, maybe somebody in your upline you can't stand, maybe somebody who works cross-line and you don't understand what they do, or maybe somebody in your downline who absolutely impresses you. All that entire ecosystem, if you're an aggressive entrepreneur, you are pulling from that information and objectively paying attention to what you can learn from them. That's what an entrepreneur does. Every single day, every book that you read, every newspaper article, every conversation you overhear is going to inform your ability to move your entrepreneurial goals forward. So for me, some of you might have seen that little, a few weeks ago I had a sort of a Twitter thing where I was waiting for my daughter to get out of an acting class, and all the moms, all the people were sort of sitting around this little coffee shop. So I'm sitting there for 20 minutes and I hear a lady pitching a beauty network next to me to her friend. She's got the slides, and they talk a little bit about their friendship, and then they're sort of going through, you know, the wealth opportunity. And so I started to tweet what was going on, and because it was fascinating to me, because it gave me insight into what you guys do every day and what some coaches probably do, which is why they never get ahead, and that is this woman who was pitching had no interest in listening to what this lady said. I mean, no interest. Well, I really don't like beauty products, so our beauty products are the most amazing. Every slide. And so for me as an entrepreneur, I was absorbing that. I mean, Ava's like, can we go? Can we go? Like, I had to listen to every single aspect of that to watch where did the lady break down, what were even when it was going bad, what were the opportunities that she had to listen to this woman to actually help her. She had financial needs, the $1,500 buy-in package. I was like, I wanted to give her a card. You know, the lady's talking about how difficult it's going to be for her to put her kids through school, and right now they're not really making their payments on the mortgage, and it was interesting. The woman even said something about, she said, are you a member of a gym? The lady's like, yeah, I like to work out. She's like, well, you can cancel that and get some home workout DVDs. And I was like, tell them to start drinking shakes. Tell them to start drinking shakes. Save money on fast food. But anyway, as an entrepreneur, every moment of the day, even watching how this ship operates, you know, when you go out on excursions, every moment is an opportunity. If you're a great entrepreneur, your radar is on 24/7. Your lights are always on. Everything, I mean, this is where the seeds of informing the next thing that you're going to do are going to show themselves constantly. If you're a kid, you're a teenager, and you're thinking, you know what, I'd like to start a business someday. I'd like to get into business. I'd like to think about building my story, building what kind of company can contribute to society under my oversight. That doesn't start by saying, I got to get up here. You can know right now that you're a millionaire. Like, you just are a millionaire. Your job now is to build the business, build your career, understand what it's going to take for you to get there. Understand how people have done it. Talk to everybody. Learn what they did. Find out what mistakes they make. I've made plenty of mistakes. I'm not going to tell you about them. No, I will tell you. Every once in a while I'll drop a mistake. But the point is that every little step, the thing that changed, that's the difference between an entrepreneur and I think a person who would just prefer to have a full-time job. An entrepreneur's job is to constantly be in school, and everything you're learning, you apply to the next thing. I'm paying attention to what are the fitness things happening out there, what are the nutrition things happening out there, and I get all this information. Like, new product ideas, they don't just pop in my head. I listen to you guys, I read Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I see what Chalene Johnson is posting. All these ideas, they accumulate, and then we go, you know what, here's one that's underserved, and there's a lot of people that want it. And then we put the team together, figure out what trainer's the best for that, see if it resonates for them. We got stuff in development right now that's going to come out over the course of the next 12 months, gonna blow your mind. Gonna blow your mind. And literally, I'll tell you, when we came out with T25, and you know, it was like, oh my God, that's so obvious. T20, it's like so obvious. Like, there was a moment that I thought, well, that's it. That's it. That's the best one. We can't do any more. It's like, it's perfect. You got a modifier. It's 25 minutes. That's pretty easy to do. People are losing crazy weight. But then there was this other idea of more extreme functional fitness. People who love P90X and lifting weights more. It was like, the biggest complaint about P90X is that it's a little bit long. Call Tony. Let's make it 30 minutes. And then, you know, focus group these things, and then we find out that the focus group tells us, you know, you're really not telling me how to eat. You're really not telling me what the food things have been like. Let's show them to do it in plastic containers. I don't know where the next thing, but an entrepreneur pays attention to what's going on. And, you know, interestingly, I said this before, I didn't have any grand design about being a fitness, nutrition, weight loss guy. I actually just wanted to work in television. I always wanted to run a network. Something about what I was learning and opportunities I was paying attention. So I'm in the infomercial business, right? And I'm seeing that every year, the big hits in infomercials are these machines. It's crazy. And I'm like, wow, that seems to be a pretty reliable. That seems to be a reliable category. And that's when this idea before I started this company, 8-minute abs came up. And I remember I walked into my partner's office and he's like, we